cooked foods are poison. They're poisonous. All cooked foods are poisonous. So I'm one of the only person you're ever going to meet in your life to say, I'm not going to die of a disease.
That is a bold statement.
Yes. I was outselling them all. And what I realized was there was all these other bottled waters out there, but I realized I had a health problem.
Dr. Bob McCauley grew up on a junk food diet, never considering the importance of what went into his body until high school when he started competing in cross country and track. The more conscientious he became about what he consumed, the more he began to feel his body transform, his energy increase, and the quality of his life change. He became a vegetarian, then vegan, then eventually raw vegan. He started a bottled water business and quickly realized that he had a health product that could change lives for the better. He deepened his expertise in both water and nutrition, becoming a certified nutritional consultant, certified master herbalist, naturopathic doctor, prolific author, and is renowned for his revolutionary alkaline ionized water. Dr. Bob is brilliant, often controversial, definitely no nonsense, and a total fanatic for your total health. He lives his word, making his health protocol his lifestyle, and his lifestyle his health protocol. So buckle up. Dr. Bob is going to drop some heavy truth bombs in this episode of Soulgasm, on location at the Orioles Transportation Museum in Lansing, Michigan. So I want to welcome you to the Soulgasm podcast.
Okay, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's a great honor to be here in the great museum, the Oldsmobile, the REO's museum. Wow, cool.
We are.
And to be doing an interview in here, chance of a lifetime. I love it. Thank you.
Well, I'm so glad to have you, and I'm so happy to have you because, like Orioles, and by the way, we are sitting in a 1954 Oldsmobile Super 88 convertible, and it is a smooth ride. This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance for an interview in the Orioles Transportation Museum. And just like Ransom Eli Olds was a staple in Lansing, so too are you, Dr. Bob McCauley.
Yeah,
so welcome.
Becoming. Thanks again. Thanks for having me. Really great. And it's gonna. This place is amazing. You guys got. If you ever get a chance to come to Lansing, you want to see the greatest cars ever. This is the place. This is the history, and they're so beautiful.
I know. It's what I find so magical about walking in and stepping into this is you can really feel the kinetic energy of inspiration that is sort of imbued in every machine here. There is a spirit of ingenuity. There is a spirit of engineering, and we're going to get into that a little bit. You being the son of Dr. Robert Sr., we'll say. And I would love to know, the whole premise of this show is really how to live an all-in, all-win life. So when we do what we feel is our soul calling, when we do what lights us up, we're able to make our biggest contribution to the world. And you exemplify that in so many ways. And I would love to get into it with you.
Okay.
So,
Cool.
Dr. Bob, what is your passion? What truly lights you up?
Well, I play guitar. I love guitar. I play acoustic guitar. I only have like 10 guitars. My wife will tell you.
Only that? Yeah.
And every time she travels for a little bit and she comes back and she goes, is that a new guitar? No, I didn't buy yet another guitar. No,
I've never seen it before in my life.
The guy who used to teach me the guitar, he says, I have guitar acquisition syndrome. You keep buying, if you're a real guitar, you keep buying guitars. So I love doing that. And then I love health. I mean, and I'll tell you about how I got into it. I kind of grew up very unhealthy, and then I kind of got health-minded in my late teens, early 20s, and then ended up moving to New York, came back, got into the bottled water business. So that's how I started that whole thing back in '93. And then I'm a writer. That's what I am before I'm anything else. I'm an author. I'm a writer. I self-publish in my own books. Back when I started writing, you had to go to the publisher and send in your manuscript, and then they would reject you 1,000 times. And then
I am familiar.
Okay.
Anyway.
So self-publishing, and especially now that you can do books on demand and you can order, you just would have never been able to do that even 10, 15 years ago. So to be an author now is the greatest time in the course. And then I've read all my own books. on Audible. So all of them, I've got 7 on there, but I have written 9 books total. And I'm just starting, I started today reading my latest book, so I'm adding to 10. So I started off as a writer. So that's really my big passion. I write, communicating, and I'm a really good writer. I've really just been working so hard at it. I started when I was about 15. For whatever reason, I just started writing poetry, you know?
One of the things that I love most about you is your magical mind.
Mm-hmm.
You are filled with stories, you're filled with knowledge, you're filled with biochemical knowledge to all the way to history. I mean, you have a phenomenal and kinetic mind and brain. And I find it really interesting that writing is your catharsis for that, or a way to sort information. I resonate with that.
Yeah.
It's just sort of how I think and sort of sort information that's coming through.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, because you are a prolific author, you've written on so much of how I know you, which is when I came to find out that there was this brilliant source of amazing water right here in my hometown, that's when we met, because I was like, oh my God. So if you're willing to sort of give us a little bit of the origin story, when you say that you grew up unhealthy and then you sort of gained more information, tell us about that. Tell us about the turning point, if you wouldn't mind, where health sort of called you.
Yeah. Well, so I was born 3 years after this car was built in 1957. So I grew
For
up.
all of you who need the math on that, that's
So
1957.
1950. So September 20th, 1957. And, so I grew up in the 60s. I remember the Kennedy assassination. You don't forget anything. I was 6 years old. I went to Foster Elementary School, very close to here. I went to Eastern High School, which is closed now. And went to Pattengale, which is gone. So I just grew up, in the 60s, and like my parents didn't know anything about health. My dad was a college professor in Michigan State University, and that's why I wore green, go white, Spartan. I grew up in TV dinners had just come out. So that was a big thing. We'd do TV dinners. My mom wasn't the best cook, but she'd make a pizza. But then we had the really fancy stuff with the Hungry Jack baked beans with the special can on top. So you had 2, and you would take this and put it all together and have this special, bring bologna and put that in. So this was like all I knew. So when I was in high school, I was a runner. And so I started running, I was a long distance runner. And my coach just one day to me said, Bob, don't eat all that. Don't eat this junk. Don't eat this potato chips and, Coca-Cola and soft drinks. Because I grew up I was the Coca-Cola kid. And my bones are made out of Coca-Cola and Oreo cookies. And I mean, that's the way I grew up. And so he says,
breakfast of champions.
Right. And so that's the first time I ever heard any association with what you eat. You will determine if you're going to be a better runner. I never heard anything like that in my life. And he's, and he told me about this guy, Dwayne Spitz, who was like a legend in the school. And he lived on this just absolute, junk food diet, this guy. When you're young, you can get away with it. So
when you're young, you can get away with it.
Yeah, you can get away with a lot. And so so that was the first time I ever heard it. Like, don't eat this garbage. Okay. Then when when I first really started getting into more healthy stuff, for whatever reason. So I went and lived in Israel. I lived in Israel for 6 months back in 78 and 79. And I was on 2 different kibbutz, and one in the north, one in the south. And kibbutz Naram was one of them. Kibbutz in Harod was the other one. And so I was there for 6 months. And it was during that time that I gave up the junk. I stopped drinking Coca-Cola. I stopped eating Oreo cookies. And then I came back, and, my mother was like, who's this guy? I was like, so she was going to the store and buying much more healthy things. There was something called 5 Alive. That was like 5 juices in 1 carton, right? So it was kind of a progression. Then, I finished up school, college. Graduated in 1980 from Michigan State in journalism.
With a journalism degree.
Yeah, journalism, and because I was writing, and that taught me how to write. But when I got done, that's when I decided, hey, I really wanted to go to India. I had a friend of mine who lived in Korea. He was in the Peace Corps, which is long gone now, and so I traveled around the world. So I went over to drove my car all the way across the United States and sold the car and got rid of it, and then went to Hawaii as a little stop, and then on to Korea. We were there for a month. My buddy Ken Beach, and he was in the Peace Corps. So I ended up traveled a bunch of other places. Ended up in India. Well, in India, 1980, you couldn't get meat, and if the meat that you saw on the street and stuff like that is like, okay, I'm not going to eat that. I'm not going to eat chicken. Not that. I was getting sick like every day, and so I began to see you couldn't. So I can remember the last time I ever ate meat was in October 1980. So I've been a vegetarian going on 44 years now. So it just stuck with me. So that was kind of the next movement toward kind of health. And then, I came back, ended up going out to Yellowstone, living out there, where, I worked for what they call TWA services, and they ran all the employee places, and because there's like 4 or 5 places where you can go to Yellowstone, and like there's Old Faithful, and then I was with the my area with the kind of these geysers and everything, Mammoth, I think they call it Mammoth Falls, and I was in there, and that was kind of the next kind of stage for me where I began to get healthy. So for a while I was going to be a Jesuit. I almost became a priest. They rejected me. Yeah, thank you, God. So then I came back, and my father had invented this method of coating water main pipe so it wouldn't rust. And this is a huge problem, and because the water mains would get so rust and this accumulation inside that you'd lose all the pressure in them.
So your father got his doctorate from MIT, I
Yeah.
believe, in environmental engineering.
Yeah,
Did he not?
what they call it now, civil and sanitary is what they called it back
Civil
then.
and sanitary
Yeah.
engineering. So,
Yeah.
And didn't he pioneer some really essential sort of coding and things to make drinking water palatable, to make it safer?
Well, the way he got his PhD from MIT in 1953 for removing radioactive strontium from water, drinking water.
Wow.
This was like a big deal because we just slid off 2 atomic bombs over Japan, and everybody's like, that's what the Russians are going to do to us, and they kept threatening to do it, and we figured this was coming, and it's like, how are we going to drink? We're going to have any water. So my dad invented this method of removing this radioactivity from drinking water, and he ended up at Michigan State as we mentioned, Olds Hall, which is Ari Olds. He donated that, and that's coincidence, but that was the engineering. Yeah, it was the engineering building until, I don't know, the 60s, and then they built this big ugly engineering building that's still there. I think it's engineering hall or whatever it is, but it's the old one. Olds Hall is right next to the museum. So I came back, and now he had developed this method of coating water main pipe, and this company hired me to go out and move to New Jersey. So I was out there for many years. It was a 9-year sentence. I mean, 9 years, 9 years I was there. So I lived in New Jersey. I started out there. It's a long story, but the guy who was in charge of the project, he just had his own ideas about it, and it went nowhere. It was totally unpractical. My dad and he came out to New Jersey. We looked at all this thing he had built, and we're just like going, "Well, are you kidding me? Could you ask us, like, maybe, should we do this?" And so he screwed the whole thing up, and that never happened. I just figured I'd stay out there for a while. Ended up, I worked in New York for many years. I worked for a big law firm called Devervois and Plimpton, and that gave me that professional education for free, and I was getting paid tons of money. I mean, I made so much money on there. They'd take me home in cars back late at night.
That sounds like a phenomenal arrangement.
I was like a temp, but I could use computer programs that nobody else could use back then. WordPerfect was kind of new. I used that, but things like Lotus 1-2-3. So that was like, you had to be in the 80s, Lotus 1-2-3 was everything. I mean, that was the first big computer software program. And it was just basically what is now Excel. So I could use all this stuff and nobody else could do it. And I was just intuitive with it, and I just know how to pick it up. And you would trade these software packages like trading cards. Like you'd call up somebody and, well, I got this and this and this. Well, I got this and this and that. And, you'd get together and you'd copy each other's software and all this. So it was really cool. So it was right at the beginning of the computers. So I stayed out there, and then I moved back to Michigan to get into the bottled water business. So that was what kind of my first thing, foray. Because the one thing I knew, it was called Michigan Mineral, premium natural water, healthy water, pure taste, nothing better.
Oh my
And
gosh,
so,
amazing.
yeah, so I started out in that, and I got into the grocery stores, and I wasn't in the grocery stores more than 6 months, and all these other stores. I was in Sparrow Hospital. I mean, I sold a ton of water, and I started right out of my basement. I had it approved well and everything. And the state of Michigan came out; they've certified it. So I started my business because I figured if this doesn't work, I started my business for $5,000. I said, okay, if this doesn't work, I've lost $5,000. I didn't lose $50,000, which again in the '90s would have been a lot more money it is now, but still, so $5,000. And I said, either this works or it doesn't. These people from the state of Michigan that were coming out, they just thought I was insane to do this. And I'm thinking, you know what, you guys are bureaucrats. So why don't you go ahead and do your bureaucrat thing and let me do my entrepreneur thing, and you go do your. So anyway, I wasn't in these supermarkets long before I could see they were controlling my business completely. If they let me put a rack up, and it used to be ShopRite, long gone now, but and ShopRite or Golfs was another one. They were around, and or even Kroger. I was in Kroger for a while. Yeah, I do great. Back in the old day, back in the '90s, you just walk in any Target, say, "Let me see the grocery manager." I'd bring in my sales tracking, so they'd have that, and I was authorized, which that meant I could get in, so I knew all the lingo, and everybody, I would just go, "Here's my water." I said, if this doesn't sell in 2 weeks or a month, just let me know. I'll come and get it. But I said, you're going to be begging me in 2 or 3 weeks to bring you more, or bugging me and tell me to come up there. So I was in all the Targets around here. I was an alchemist and everything. I had end caps. I had checkout lanes. I mean, I outsold everybody. I outsold Coca-Cola because I had sales tracking. Snapple. Okay, Snapple was huge back then. Nobody had ever seen that. That was that tea, bottled tea, and you had all the flavors. It was huge. I was outselling them all. And what I realized was there was all these other bottled waters out there, but I realized I had a health product. And my caps were all different colored caps. So kids loved them. And then I'd have different colored. So I had the pint size, and I'd have the liter size and the 1.5 liter. But I realized I had a health product. And nobody else that was selling Naya water, all these other waters at Evian, they didn't see this is a health product. Hello. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So what makes water a health product?
Well,
what allowed you to come to that realization?
Intuitive. I knew I had this health product. So that's when I said, I got to get my own store. If I don't have this store or something. And so I went out to New Mexico. And my father had some health issues. He still lived back here, but he'd gone out to see his sister, had some health problems. And so I drove his car back for him. And I just sat there the entire time for 3 days thinking about, what am I going to do with this, my business, and how am I going to get into this? And I got to get a store. So over on the west side, and I was always like I was selling into, I was down in Detroit. I had places down in Detroit area, shopping center markets. I did all those places down there. I mean, I sold 700,000 bottles of water through the times before I gave that up completely for the 5 gallon. So at any rate, so I'm doing really good, and I'm in my store. So I start selling water for 35 cents a gallon, just regular water, nothing like ionized. That came later. And of course, I got into the 5 gallon business because I knew once again that like when Target corporatized, I was out of there overnight. They planogrammed me out of existence. Now it was, Pepsi, Coke with their, it was Pepsi, Coke, and 7-Up. They had their here's your little thing, 7-Up. And they just bought up all the shelf space. And if you want to get into Target now, you have to go to Minneapolis to the main corporate office and start pitching your water there. Well, that was the end of that. I just bought a machine, started filling 5 gallons. So I got into the 5 gallon bottle water business. So I was going into all the offices. And then I had all these people coming in my store, and it just was totally organic, and they were all health minded. And it just, like I'm just in there one day, this guy came in, I put him in my book, Don Strayer. He goes, you ever heard of this ionized water? He didn't even know ionized water. He goes, look, I got this water. I coined the term ionized water. But he came in, I got this water and you make it. And I'm going, what is this? They really didn't know what this water was. They said, this is an antioxidant or something. They didn't really understand what it was, but they knew it was good. So I went to this guy's house one night after work, and he gave me a few gallons. And that's how I got going. And then I found out the people that made them. I flew out to California to meet some of the people that were selling them. I started buying these Jupiter units from Korea. So that's how the whole water ionizer thing. And then I realized what it was that basically what you're doing with ionized water, which is the healthiest substance.
Please, let's get into this because because you're considered quite a guru and an authority on ionized water. In fact, one of your best-selling books is The Miraculous Properties of Ionized Water.
Yeah. So, I've written 9 books and I brought them, and I just wanted to show you some of the covers. And it's my 3rd edition. It just shows you how incredibly interested people are in water, because it's my best. It's in its 3rd edition. It is my best-selling book by far. Nothing comes close. The Miraculous Properties of Ionized Water. And it is the definitive guide to the world's healthiest substance, because there's nothing better for you than water. And there's no better water than alkaline ionized water. And what you don't want to do, you don't want to drink purified water. So I literally just sat there one day. It was like an epiphany of just the light bulb came in. I got it. You're taking water, you're running over to positive and negative electrode, an anode and a cathode. You're creating positive and negative ions in the water, and you're separating them through the membrane. So this membrane is really like the magical thing inside of water ionizer. So it came like what you're doing, you're using a cathode, which is positive, to make negative ions. That's the counterintuitive thing about ionized water. Even the people selling it really didn't understand this about ionized. They didn't understand that the plus cathode would be making the negative. So you're shifting the electrons from one set of water to the other, because you're always producing 2 waters at once. One's alkaline and the other is acid. And the alkaline ionized water is a powerful antioxidant. So you're taking water in normal tap water, you're filtering it in the unit, and then you're turning it into a powerful antioxidant immediately. So that, it just, as soon as it comes out, just like there, it's like, are you kidding me? Antioxidant, everything in the body is about oxidation. And that's how it became a raw foodist. But, I almost exclusively eat raw fruits and vegetables. But so it's a very powerful antioxidant. It has 3 antioxidant qualities. It is extremely alkaline. All disease lives in an acid environment within your body and will not live in a neutral, more alkaline environment. You look anybody with cancer, you'll see they're very low pH. They're down there 6, maybe lower 5.
Their system is acidic.
Yeah, very, very acidic. If you ever go to a cancer hospital or a cancer floor, in oncology, you have this smell. So what's happening is that's the smell of death. Well, yeah, kind of, but what's happening is your body has become so acidic from the cancer. So if you get advanced cancer, you're in stage 4 and you're laying there and you're dying, what happens is your body starts producing ammonia to counteract the extreme acidity. And so your body's eating itself alive. It's not the smell of the cancer. It's the smell of this acid in the alkalinity trying to, counteract that. And so your body's actually kind of dissolving, and that's the smell you have.
I've heard you say that you don't inherit disease. Disease is not hereditary.
Yeah.
It has to do with your diet.
Yeah. All disease comes from your diet.
All disease comes from your diet.
Yeah.
And I love this conversation because, first of all, people are more knowledgeable about water.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that we're going to nerd out about water because it is so important.
Yeah.
And, our bodies, the earth is mirrored. It's 80% water.
Right.
Water is everywhere. It's all over our system. It's in our system. And I'm so glad to hear you talk about the ionized alkalinity of water.
Yeah.
How that is the best water.
Yeah.
And if you wouldn't mind, we've answered what's the best type of water for our bodies in terms of ionized.
Yeah.
You have ionizers, yes?
Yeah. Yeah, I sell water. I've been selling those since the 90s. I got Don Strayer walked in he was quite a salesman. He's a pretty old guy now, but he walked in my store, introduced this to me. One of the big moments of my life. I didn't know that at the time, but wow. So when I latched onto it and I really began to understand, it was like this epiphany moment when I said, it's the negative charge, the negative ORP. So again, you want to reduce the oxidation. Everything you put into your body either increases oxidation or reduces oxidation. Okay, so oxidation is fire and rust. So fire is fast oxidation. Rust is slow oxidation. So when you cook foods, you oxidize them. And then you eat them, you put them in your body, and that oxidizes your body. If you take a raw fruit and vegetable, that has a negative charge. You eat a raw fruit and vegetable, you reduce the oxidation. So you're essentially reversing the aging process biologically, not chronologically. You're still getting old. You're still, I'm 60, almost 67. I'm going to be 68 here next year. That's going to progress, but it's the biological body, that I have reduced the oxidation constantly.
So you're saying
body.
Cooked foods actually deposit toxins in your body?
Yeah, well, they deposit toxins, but cooked foods are poison. They're poisonous. All cooked foods are poisonous. And, you can say...
Spoiler alert, people. I'm sorry. We're just going to dash your greatest vices.
Yeah, right. Well, just before I go any further, I'll say a couple things. Number one, the water molecule clusters of ionized water are hexagonal in structure. Okay, they're six-sided. You never want to drink purified water because that's five-sided. See, that's not natural. You see the hexagon everywhere in nature. You see it in beehives. You see it in snakeskin. You see it in crystals. You see it in insect eyes. It's all over the place because that is the most fundamental, least amount of energy that is used by the universe. It always collapses down to the hexagon, not to the pentagon, not to the triangle. You'll never find these things in nature. The circle, well, the circle is because it's spinning and you creating a circle, but that's not, again, you look at through anything in nature. There's a whole series on Netflix. I haven't seen it in years, but it's on mathematics. And the first episode was about the hexagon and how that is the collapse or the least amount of energy that you can use in the universe. So that is natural. And that's been proven by a guy by the name of Gerald Pollack, Dr. Gerald Pollack. He's a PhD from University of Washington who wrote a book called The Fourth Phase of Water. And everything, we don't really, as much as we see water, no, really what is water? It's H2O. And okay, so that's hydrogen two oxygen molecules. Beyond that, it's like we don't really understand what water is. How does that stick together? How does it get wet? How does the ice float? And every other solid doesn't. So everything we know in nature has three phases: gas, solid, liquid, except ionized water. It has this fourth phase that I always knew was out there, and that's why I always knew this is natural. Because I started selling this, and a lot of these raw food guys, they were like, "Oh, that isn't natural, man. It comes out of you're creating that, and it comes out of a machine."
So I have a question for you, because when you're talking about it's not natural, or it was accused of being not natural. So when I first started nerding out about water and learning more about it, a friend of mine got me in touch with Clayton Nolte of Natural Action Technologies, talking about structured water. Talking about that hexagonal sort of shape, that DNA coil, to run water through a structured water unit to enliven it. To really make it come alive again. Is that what you're talking about in terms of ionization?
Well, what you're doing, again, you're shifting all the electrons in the water. So ionized water, as I said, you're not energizing, but when you do that, you're essentially getting all the energy of the water. So that's the one we drink. Well, they're gonna be the alkaline one we drink, the acid one we don't drink it, but it has incredible uses on the outside of the body, and it does.
I want to know more about this, because I had no idea that you sold acidic water from your Kangen machines until I went in there one time and somebody was filling up a jug of acid water, and I was like, "What is that for?" She said, "It's brilliant for gardening. It's brilliant for
plants."
Yes, I did not know that. So I want to circle back to that. And at the same time, is not the most natural thing way back in the day for water to roll over rocks downstream to gain that kinetic energy, to gain those ions, and to sort of come alive so your body knows exactly what to do with it? Is that not the most natural state that water can be in? Right.
So what happens is, I knew this was natural. And so, as you said, the bouncing off of the rocks, the waterfalls, you're creating negative ions. See, when you go near, when that happens, that's why you go by a waterfall or you walk next to the ocean. The water's coming, it's crashing on the beach. So you're creating these negative ions. And it's all about negative ions. You get into a shower, you're dousing yourself in negative ions. That's why you feel, even when you're sick, you go take a shower and he comes down and you feel a little bit better, because you're dousing yourself with negative ions. And again, what has negative ions? Raw fruits and vegetables. What has positive ions? Cooked foods. So cooked and processed foods and fast food, all this garbage. So you're putting something that's completely unnatural in your body. And like I always like to say, look, God grew an apple. We made a frying pan. Okay, you can't improve on God's creation, And so
there are many bakers who would probably disagree with you, but
yeah, no, what you can have an apple, or you can have an apple pie. Now you've made it taste better, but you do improve the apple? No, it's gone. So an apple is an example of what is, and an apple pie is an example of what was. Because
let's let that land for a moment.
So
wowza.
Yeah. So there is no connection at all between an apple and a cooked apple. It's you've destroyed all the enzymes. You've destroyed all the electrons that are in the apple. You have totally made it a totally different chemical substance. The organic chemical structure of that apple is gone. It's not there anymore. And so that substance it's got a few nutrients in it. Maybe it's got some vitamins, but that's about it. You've totally destroyed that apple. So why do we cook foods? Well, you like the taste. I mean, I'm going to go home here tonight and have a big salad. Now, I would like to have a big pizza, but
really,
when and or people want to go home and have a nice big burger, a big steak, or whatever. Okay, so but I don't do that because I know the energy is in the raw food. So yeah, you look at these chefs shows. You look Gordon Ramsay and all these chefs and everything, and they make amazing, tasty stuff. But you've destroyed the food. And you're just doing it for the taste. So really the taste of your food determines how long you're going to live, how healthy you're going to be. You're letting the taste of your foods and what you really love the taste of control your destiny.
Okay. I so appreciate this conversation. I too am a raw vegan.
Okay, great.
I think I came into the world vegan back when it wasn't a thing. There wasn't a term for it, but just as a really little girl.
Yeah, vegan's pretty new.
Yeah.
That word.
Yes, but it always
10, 15 years.
I came into 20. The world a weirdo.
Yeah.
Clearly you did as well.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm people that I'm friends with, everybody is like, how can you do that? And it is such a personal thing, what you eat, what you crave, like such a personal thing.
Yeah.
And at the same time, for me, it's not a discipline because it feels best.
Yeah.
Not that I don't go off the wagon or crave pizza every now and again. Yeah. And at the same time, what in your opinion and in your life, what compels you to make that choice when you're sitting down between a salad and a pizza day after day in the moment? What compels you to make that choice?
Great question. And that's just, to me, it's to be as healthy as I can be. I know, for instance, I'm not going to die of a disease. I know for sure I'm going to die. God's going to take me when he wants. One of the most, what makes me excited? God. What makes me excited? I'm a Catholic. We're here on this earth for a short time, very short time, as we know. And you try to make the best of things. You said, get the most out of every moment. Hemingway was good at that. He kind of totally destroyed himself, but he really knew, let's get everything out of every moment. Let's live full up, that thing. And
this is the point of the podcast, how to live an all in life. We're here. We're already all in.
Yeah.
How do we get the most out of it to be able to feel more and do more? And you're talking about siphoning or gleaning or inviting the energy from foods.
Yeah.
From real foods, from raw foods into your life, into your body.
Right. And the amazing thing about alkaline ionized water is that it is identical to raw fruits and vegetables in every single way, every aspect, except it has no nutrients. So it is a powerful antioxidant. It has a negative charge, negative ORP, that reduces the oxidation in your body, same as raw fruits and vegetables. Has an abundance of electrons. Those are free radical scavengers, same as raw fruits and vegetables. Has an abundance of active hydrogen, exactly like raw fruits and vegetables. And it's very alkalizing, so just like raw fruits and vegetables. And then, of course, it has this, it's very hydrating because these small, tiny little water molecule clusters get into your body, get into your flesh, get into your cells and hydrate it. And then, of course, it's very detoxifying because it's pushing out all the things that don't belong in the body, which we refer to as toxins. A toxin is something that doesn't perform a function in the body. There are very mild toxins, and then there are extremely dangerous toxins, such as heavy metals, herbicides, pesticides, benzene, trihalomethanes, hydrocarbons, all the stuff. You go fill up your car with gas and you're breathing all that in. You're breathing in benzene, you're breathing in trihalomethanes. And so you've got to constantly detoxify. What drives me is I just want to be healthy. The most important thing in my life is God. What's number two? My health. Well, not your family. Well, what good am I to my family if I'm unhealthy, if I get cancer? I'm a detriment. I'm a liability. I'm not working. I'm not bringing in money. I become this big liability for my family. So my goal, my duty and my goal is to take care of myself so I can take care of my family, if you want to look at it that way. And so I can keep going and giving my knowledge to the world. So as best I know, and everything comes from God. Everything comes from God, and we're just little conduits that can bring it out there. So that's the base of my life. So I'm the only person you're ever going to meet in your life to say, I'm not going to die of a disease.
That is a bold statement.
Yeah. I know I'm going to die. Probably accident. Could be murder. Could be assassination. Believe me, there are those out there.
Very quickly, by the way.
Could be something, but it's not going to be.
You know something that we don't?
Could be a meteor from outer space.
This is such an interesting point that you're bringing up, because when we talk about those things that we feel compelled to do, when we talk about, those whispers that we get, what excites us, what lights us up. We're here with a specific constellation of attributes. We came into this time and space. We came through the parents that we came in the location that we came in, all for a reason. We're all little jigsaw puzzles, pieces of this life experience. And the diversity of that is our innovation. That is, it's so special. And it's so when I talk about what lights you up, when I'm asking you this, it's tapping into those specific constellation of attributes. And what you're saying right now is you came into this world for a reason. How do you find that purpose? And what you're saying in terms of getting rejected from club after club after club, that is you putting your feelers out, following your highest excitement to find where you fit and where you're going to make your specific contribution to this world. Your soul's calling. And thank you for sort of going through that, because it's so important to realize that if you're rejected from something, or you just simply, your interest shifts and you're following that energy and you're following what lights you up, you will find your tribe. You'll create your tribe.
And you'll find that place where you belong, and it'll all flow for you. And
much like water.
Exactly, just like water. And so that's how I got into this. First the water, then there was, believe it or not, in Lansing, Michigan, there was a woman called Hiawatha Cromer. She's just loved through. I mean, what a great person. She, no matter what kind of negative thing you'd say to her, she'd just ignore it and keep, she was positive. She passed away, but she introduced me to not really raw fruits and vegetables, but to sprouting. So she comes in my store one day, and I do a lot of sprouting. Sproutings are powerful foods. They're supposed to be wimpy. You get your sprouts on there, you're putting, these are really, because there's like this one quick example, broccoli. So they say broccoli is anti-cancer. Well, if you cook it, no, it's not, because there's an enzyme in broccoli called sulforaphane. So when you sprout a broccoli seed, you will find 30 to 50 times more sulforaphane in that sprout than you will an entire head of broccoli, because it produces it at the beginning, and then it spreads out through the entire plant. And then you're just eating the florets on top. And so you're not getting this really getting the sulforaphane. You get a little tiny bit, but when you get a sprout, it's amazing. So actually, I got some sprouts at home that I made. I'm always sprouting. And talk about cheap. Let me tell you something. You'll spend 5 cents and you'll get a whole bunch of sprouts. And I make a salad out of them. You can put the sprouts down there. You put some avocado on top, a little balsamic vinegar, a little salt and pepper.
God, you're making me hungry.
Yeah. And there's an incredibly healthy meal that took you almost no time to make. And there you go. So it comes back to, ionized water and all its attributes being identical to raw fruits and vegetables. So that's why I eat it. And I've been a vegan 25 years now, and I've been a vegetarian 44 years. I still run a 6-minute mile. I worked out today on my elliptical. I went 3.75 miles in 20 minutes. My record is 4 miles in 20 minutes. So that's 4 5-minute miles back to back on my elliptical. And then I worked out and I did all my other stuff. I do that 5 days a week. I work never more than 30 minutes because that's about, you start building up too many free radicals in the body. You become too acidic. So I do 30 minutes 5 times a week, and that's where I stay in incredible shape. And, so.
I love this conversation because first of all, the world is getting more knowledgeable, and there is an an antidote or an addition to the discourse of the meat and potatoes. You have to eat meat to build protein. We have more knowledge now, and it's becoming more widespread. So you see bodybuilders who are vegan. You see
Arnold.
Exactly.
He made a whole documentary about it.
Right?
Yeah. Game Changers or something, I think was the name.
We're answering these questions.
Yeah.
Why meat and why not meat? And what we're talking about and what you're just talking about in terms of your craving and how people really sort of cleave onto their ideology when it comes to meat or when it comes to vegetarianism, eating is an emotional thing, very much. Like flavor is a very much emotional thing. People are very emotionally attached to their food, and rightly so. So I understand the whole, it's a very personal decision. And for those who think that going raw vegan is quite radical and they can't see, they can't see themselves, they see it as a discipline and they can't see themselves being that disciplined or even wanting to go into that. Let's talk about the most nutrient dense foods on the planet, like spirulina and chlorella, because any addition, any migration towards health is going to benefit you. Yeah. Even if you're stopping by McDonald's for a burger on the way home. Let's talk about just like ionized alkaline water. Let's talk about the incredible properties of spirulina and chlorella.
Yeah. So looking for my book, maybe I can get it. That's my latest book is chlorella and spirulina, Kings of All Superfoods. There's that one. Kings of all superfoods. People talk about superfoods. These are the 2 most powerful foods in the world. Chlorella is an algae. Spirulina is a cyanobacteria. And nothing comes close. So where do you want, they're both 60% protein. So where do you want to get your protein? Spirulina and chlorella. So the thing about meat and fish, eggs, and dairy is this. First of all, a lot of people say you got to have those in your diet. Well, all the animals that we eat, they're all vegans. And as a matter of fact, the biggest raw food vegan group in the world, they're called wild animals. And because there's no frying pans out there, and that's why you will find absolutely no evidence at all of chronic disease in the wild. Nobody's ever shot a deer or any other animal or a rabbit, whatever, brought it back, found it for cancer, arthritis, fibromyalgia, high blood pressure, diabetes, or anything else.
I have literally never thought about that.
And now infectious disease such as rabies, that's replete throughout. So there's infectious disease and chronic disease. We're the only species on earth that gets chronic disease other than the animals we domesticate. When we put them on a processed food diet, puppy chow and cat chow, and we start feeding them our own food, and poor little Fifi we get cancer, he gets cancer too. Because they're on the same diet. And that's why you'll find in families like, people think, it appears, and because the medical establishment tells you this is how it is, that these diseases run in families. So diabetes runs in your family. Cancer runs in your family. No, it doesn't. It runs in your dietary habits. When you sit around the dinner table at night, you're eating all the same food. You don't have Sally eating Japanese food and Tommy eating Russian food and mom is eating Indian food tonight. And then I'm having this meat and potatoes diet. It's all the same food. You cook it, you put it on the table. And as you do that day in and day out, year after year, month after month and all that, you end up, literally with the same, diseases. I knew a couple of twins years and years ago. They both ended up with diabetes. They were 18 years old. Okay, well, it runs in our family. And it becomes an excuse, one of the most bizarre things that's going on are women having their breasts removed because breast cancer runs in the family. Angelina Jolie. Okay. And then another one, ovarian cancer. So they're having that removed. I don't know what they're going to do when they discover brain cancer up there because it runs in your family because it's off of the head.
Dear God.
Right. But so, as I said, and by the way, just so we're clear, if you were to eat raw meat, fish, eggs, or dairy, that wouldn't be a problem. Okay. Because you haven't cooked it. It's the cooking of the animal protein, because you're destroying the protein chain. So when you eat amino acids like you find in raw fruits and vegetables, which are spirulina and chlorella, which are pre-digested, meaning they're sitting there ready to be turned into protein chains within the body.
Meaning the bioavailability of that is instantaneous.
It's instantaneous. And plus, now what you're going to do, see what you've got with an animal is a protein chain. So it's already preformed. And that's for that animal. So your body's got to take that, break it down, and reform it into protein chains that we need. So that's what takes a little bit of energy. Okay. But when you cook it, what you do is especially at high temperatures, or you're frying it, or you're grilling it at high temperature, you destroy these little peptide chains, okay, that hold the amino acids together into long protein chains. And that's how they're held together, because they are meant to be formed and then undone, so now you can form other protein chains. So it's all about these amino acids. So
which are the building blocks?
That's of ours. Yeah, they're definitely the building block. And you don't need that much protein, which is another. You need 51 grams of protein per day. Now that's 51 grams of meat. If you were to eat 51 grams, meat on average has around 15% protein in it. Okay. And the highest, most leanest meat is maybe filet mignon at around 21%. Okay. So the rest of that is, your guess is as good as mine. Whatever, but you're only eating, about 15% meat, whereas here 60% spirulina and chlorella, 60% protein, and they're pre-digested. So they're ready to be turned into protein chains immediately.
Okay. So when you hear people, whether it's an old school mentality or not, when you hear people say you need 100 grams of protein at least a day to build muscle, they are talking about the fact that you need so much protein if you're going to eat meat or something like that. Because first of all, fish, eggs, or dairy, because your body not only needs to break down that 100 grams of protein, but then build it back up into some sort of efficacy for you to use it to build your own protein. And then if you cook it on top of that, you're destroying even more. So this mass quantity of protein is to get an infinitesimal amount compared to something that is so bioavailable and full of amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein, meaning your body doesn't have to do anything but simply consume it and let it build protein.
Yeah. Well, all the animals we commonly eat, chickens, cows, even fish, they're all vegans. So where are they getting their nutrients to form, their flesh that we're going to eat?
They're all
plant-based. So they're all vegans. So we're eating.
Encouraging us to cut out the middleman, is what you're saying.
Exactly. They're just a middleman. Exactly. They're a middleman. And I always tell people, I'm a meat eater, you're vegan. I said, you and I have something in common. I'm a vegan, and all the animals you eat are vegans. Okay, so it's a middleman. And it's not a very good middleman. I mean, you got to eat, it's just like fat. Okay. Mammals and animals cannot make fat. We cannot produce fat. Only plants can make fat.
I need you to tell me that many, many more times. Any of us look in the mirror occasionally.
Yeah, no, we can accumulate fat.
Oh.
Okay. We can take essential fatty acids. When you hear about an essential nutrient, that means your body can't produce it. So there's eight essential amino acids. That means you have to get them from the outside. All minerals are essential, meaning you can't produce a mineral. So you got to go out and get them. That's why I have a full spectrum mineral base. Minerals are the keys that start the engine of our health. They're what turn it over. If you don't have a mineral, if you don't have magnesium, you're going to have a heart attack. If you don't have potassium, you're going to have brain problems. You have magnesium for the brain. Every single physiological process depends on really one of 26 main minerals that are found out there. They're all essential. We don't produce minerals. We don't produce fat. Only plants can produce fat. They usually do it in the seed. Okay, but we can again take these like omega-3s and turn them into omega-9s within our body, omega-6s, omega-9s. We can build these fatty acid chains within the body, but we cannot produce it ourselves. And then, as you said, I'm fat. Okay, well, you accumulate fat. And you're overeating. And then, of course, you eat animal protein, and that's really unhealthy type of fat. There's really no use for it whatsoever. They talk about fish oil. Once again, the fish is eating all this algae, accumulating it, and then we, take the fish and strip out just get the oil itself, and now we call it cod liver oil or krill oil or something. All you need is, essential fatty acids from spirulina and chlorella, for example. Okay, it's got 6% fat in it. All these foods, and these are the two most nutritionally dense foods in the world, and the broadest array of nutrients of any food. They're the only two foods you could live on exclusively and be healthy. You get all your basic nutrients. There's no other foods. They're the ultimate survival foods. If you want in a survival situation, you want a couple of kilos of this on hand.
I want to stop for 1 second and highlight this, because these two things have changed my life. And I had to figure out my diet and whatever felt good to me as I went. As a kid, I had to figure it out, just as you did. Just as we all sort of do. We sort of migrate and intuitively find, what feels best to us. And when you're talking about, that decision between an apple and a pizza, if you really stop, take a pause, and I'm not saying that everybody is perfect at a given moment, like feed your craving, or else you're going to eat around it, is what I always said growing up, feed your craving, or else you're going to spend a ton of energy and calories eating around it. And at the same time, if you really take a moment and tune in, you can tell immediately and for days after what really feels good to eat and to consume. Had I known about spirulina and chlorella when I was playing volleyball for Notre Dame, when I was being recruited, having been an athlete, just energy-wise in general, had I had the nutritional knowledge, my career would have been completely different.
Right.
So I'm so appreciative of this conversation, because I want to stress once again, everybody, what you eat is a very personal decision, and nobody should tell you there's no one universal diet. And at the same time, there are universal benefits to putting the most nutrient dense foods on the planet into your system, regardless of what you eat around that or outside of that. There is such huge benefit from eating foods that are naturally alkaline, that are antioxidant filled, that are nutrient dense, like spirulina and chlorella, and like alkaline ionized water. So thank you for letting this be so important, because in my life, this has transformed my entire body. And amino acids are number 3 after water and spirulina and chlorella and amino acids.
And so I was a vegetarian for 18 years before I ever heard of spirulina and chlorella. Again, somebody walked in my store. You ever have spirulina? No.
You have a magical store. It's like this portal to another dimension.
And this person who told me about it was not the healthiest person, let me tell you. So I went to, what was the name? It was Better Health now. It's not, but it was right near my old store, near Kreitz and West Saginaw. And I went in the store and I got a book on spirulina. And then I'm looking around, and because this is kind of pre-internet, it was just coming around, in the 90s.
I'm sorry, I don't understand pre-internet.
I know. Right. What's this? It's called a map. What do you do with a map? I have Google.
Can you zoom in?
I have Google Maps. So I went over there, and then I looked through the shelf, and I'm looking around, and they had all these books on, on different foods and all this stuff, and I see chlorella. Okay, let me look at this one. Okay, I got that, but I never heard of it. And I said, wow, that's amazing, And so I first started taking spirulina. Well, my running time started dropping. My recovery was immediate. And I felt fantastic. And it was the thing, because I was a lacto vegetarian. I was eating mostly dairy products. The only reason we put anything into our mouth and eat it is 100% psychological. You like those things, especially, you always got to remember, it's like, what do you remember? Grandma's Christmas cookies, because it's grandma, it's Christmas, the nostalgia. So there's powerful psychological connection there.
Powerful psychological,
you don't remember
connection.
you don't remember grandma's liver and onions, okay? Because that was you were hiding. That,
you haven't scarred. You haven't been scarred that badly.
Yeah, you know, or some other dish that grandma made or mommy made that you hated for whatever reason, but you do remember that. And again, that's that powerful psychological. So that's what the psychological part of it is. And as far as being on all the same diet, we all do belong on the same diet, which is raw fruits and vegetables. And the more you get closer and closer and closer to that, and the reason I say that is because we are all genetically 99.999% genetically identical to one human beings.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, yeah. And so you even look at primates. You look at all the monkeys. They're like 99% the same. There's a 1% difference in these different orangutan and this kind of monkey and spider monkey and all these different types of things. So we are the most genetically identical species on Earth. And it's literally that last 1/10,000% that give us different hair color and height and intelligence and all these things. This down to that. So if we all do live on the same diet of raw fruits and vegetables and stop cooking all our food and putting all this, you'd see, again, your health will disappear. And that's why I said, I'm not going to die of a disease.
I am still reeling over your proclamation and truth that disease doesn't run in families, but dietary habits run in families.
Yeah.
Which means, by that proxy, you're saying that everything is curable.
Yeah.
And everything is curable not only with your understanding that so much of what we eat is emotionally based, is mental based, and our diet, what we put into our bodies, can heal us.
Yeah.
Food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. Hippocrates. I mean, this is basic.
Right. And spirulina and chlorella will never heal anything. It's what your body does. Your body can heal itself of any disease. So I wrote this book, The Cure in the Mirror, Nature's Protocol for Surviving Cancer. Because the cure for all disease is you. Go look in the mirror. Go look in the mirror. You'll see there is the greatest physician you're ever going to meet. And so the reason I wrote this book is because the most common question I've ever gotten, and I've been doing this, 25 years, is, what do you got for cancer? So I started this cancer protocol I wrote down, and then it was like, I got to write this book on cancer. So this one is The Cure in the Mirror, but everybody has cancer or knows somebody with cancer. Everybody. There's not another person. I don't know anybody. You got an aunt, you got an uncle, you got a friend. Everybody, when I was growing up, cancer in kids was extreme. That was like the movie of the week. Very rare. Now they got entire hospitals dedicated to cancer with kids. Why? Well, because all the fast food, I grew up on a lot of junk food, but I didn't grow up on, fast food, McDonald's and all that kind of stuff. That came later. When I got into high school, I got into all the McDonald's and all these stuff. Yeah. Because I was in track and cross country, so they take us out to, to
the bus would stop at whatever. Yeah.
Wherever you go to Burger King, you go to McDonald's.
Those were the days.
Yeah, I know. So at any rate, that's why I wrote that book. So I had meningitis. Now I got meningitis.
You have told me this story.
Yeah. So I get meningitis. So I wrote Silver the Miracle Mineral, the end of infectious disease. So I had meningitis. That's 21% mortality rate. That's a killer. Encephalitis is 30%. That's what gets in your brain, swells up. And then meningitis. I had meningitis. It attacks the menins in your
brainstem. Is it not?
Yeah, it comes down here, and it's your nerves. There's these things that coat, wrap around your nerves to protect them. So it eats away at it. I mean, it got worse and worse, and I don't know what it was. And I had heard or knew there was meningitis in the mosquitoes, but I thought I'd been poisoned. I just had gotten married, and I'm thinking, oh, did she? She put something in the
Happy
food?
anniversary.
You got me. So I'm thinking I was poisoned, something happened. Anyway, so I get through this. I could barely get out of bed, at one point. So, any normal person would have went to the hospital, but not Dr. Bob. You can't go to the hospital. No, she's Dr. Bob. So he's
going to instead crawl to the bathroom and find.
So I got through it with all my protocol. I was fasting, which is the healthiest thing you can do for yourself. Stop eating. And
why is that the healthiest thing that you can do for yourself?
Because the only real fast is a water fast, and it gives your body a chance to rest, repair and cleanse itself. And so I recommend a 3-day, 7-day fast at the most. You don't have to go on a 30-day fast.
How often do you recommend doing it?
Often, a lot. I would recommend it. I do a few of those a year. It definitely focuses your mind. You're not, if you want to get tired, eat something. Your body immediately stops. I used to do live blood analysis. As soon as you eat something, your body stops doing anything else to digest that food. I went on I fasted with spirulina and chlorella. I have it in my book, 10 days straight. I never had so much energy in my life because they're so easy to digest those. But I will say I fast every single day. So I usually eat around 6 o'clock, and then I don't eat the following day until noon. So that's like a 15-hour fast every day.
This is intermittent fasting.
Yeah, exactly.
I do the same thing.
All of a sudden we got intermittent fasting.
Right.
It's like, okay, fine, call it what it's like vegan, never heard of a vegan until about 10, 15 years ago. Intermittent fasting, okay, cool, just stop eating and give your body a chance to stop digesting the food. Because what happens, and I tell people you should supplement with digestive enzymes, because what happens is we don't eat the right food, so we stop producing lactase and lipase and proteins and all these enzymes that are meant to digest your food. And so what happens is your body starts robbing its metabolic enzymes. And there's 2 types of enzymes. There's digestive enzymes and metabolic. Everything we do, which is why you eat raw fruits and vegetables. You think, you blink, you talk, you walk, you do anything. It's enzyme reactions. A simple smile is a complicated sequence of enzymic reactions within the body. And what are you doing? You're putting foods in your body every day, all day, that have no enzymes. So you're literally, you really are just deteriorating from within. This is completely unnatural. And people say, you get old, you get sick, and you die. No, you live on the wrong foods and you get sick. And then maybe you'll survive it, but you're going to die. We're all meant to die. We're all meant to die, but not of disease. And I'll say it again. You don't find chronic disease in the wild. That doesn't. Infectious disease, well, I got that one covered in silver. The most, they've been using this for thousands of years. And don't you tell that to a doctor, because they are not trained in that.
You're talking about colloidal silver, angstrom silver. You're talking about
kind of the same thing. Colloidal silver is not nearly as effective because it's about the same size as your cell. So it's good to have.
But it can't actually get in.
Yeah, it's not easily. Angstrom, you take it, you hold it in your mouth as long as you possibly can. It's the best way to shut somebody up. It talks too much. Just, and you hold that as long, and it goes, yeah. And then it gets right into the body through the sublingual duct, gets into the bloodstream and does its work. So I got really sick. I got through it. And then my wife and I, we went to this for like our honeymoon. We went to China. Okay. So I get to China, and at first I get to Hong Kong. I'm okay. Then we land on Hainan Island, and all of a sudden the same disease starts coming back. Meningitis. And I'm like going, first of all, I never thought I'd have an infectious disease because I thought I'd built up my immune system. It's hard to build up your immune system. That's really, really, and I talk about it in that book, what to do to build it up. But so
what are just for for the sake of our audience, what are like the top 3 things that you can do to build your immunity?
Besides stop eating junk foods, fast foods.
Besides that,
this garbage which rips it down. You got to stay hydrated. I wake up in the morning, big tall glass of water. First thing, people sit down to eat. Drink water, flush yourself out. I mean, the healthiest thing you can do is to drink water first thing in the morning.
Okay, so if you are traveling and you don't have access to alkaline water, you don't have access to ionized water, I've heard you talk about hydrogen sticks. What is the best protocol that you can use on the road when you don't have access to fresh alkaline ionized water?
Well, so you go out and get, like what I do. I go out and buy spring water in the stores.
Spring water, not purified water,
no,
not
don't
drinking water.
Exactly. Okay. Because purified water, reverse osmosis, distilled water is not what you find in nature. It is not rainwater. So you get yourself some spring water. Then you put this hydrogen stick in it. And hydrogen, just so you know, this is literally the smallest molecule in the universe and the most detoxifying mineral in the or element, I should say, in the entire universe is hydrogen. So it's got these ceramic beads. It's kind of complicated, but we'll just make it easy. Again, the technology has come so far. This didn't even exist when I first started getting into bottled water. But they've got these ceramic beads now. They cook them at like different temperatures, and they add all these elements, and they're able to make, you know, far infrared waves from these. You know, you're able to. So so you put it in there and you shake it up, and you're getting a very mild form of alkaline ionized water. So it'll give you a very small negative charge. It'll raise that pH up maybe 8.5 or 9. And then you get some of those smaller water molecule clusters are so incredibly hydrating. And so it's like a weak form of alkaline ionized water. So
and
that's what I do.
And this is a reusable stick.
Yeah,
You're actually putting it in and shaking it up. And
yeah, and it'll go a long, long time. I never miss taking those with me. And everywhere, so I go out and get that. I usually get a small bottle so I can take it around with me, and then I get a gallon. And, you know, I spent half my life in hotels, so I know all about, you know, what do you got to do when you travel? It's like when I travel, I get into the room just like everybody else. And of course, I take off the shower head just like everyone else. Sure. And I put on a shower filter that I carry with me everywhere, just like everyone else. Sure. So, you know, and by the way,
your wife is probably thinking you are a delight to travel with.
Right. And just so you know, just for the folks at home, you know, just make sure those pliers that you take everywhere with you, they're under 7 inches, and they'll go right through TSA. So yeah, if you don't have them in the suitcase.
Solid advice.
Yeah, because you don't want to shower in chlorinated water. Basically you're breathing in chlorophyll, and it's getting right into your skin, and you'll absorb 12 times more of any kind of, you know, any kind of chemical or anything when you're in a hot shower, when your skin pores are dilated. So you're absorbing that directly into the lungs through chlorophyll and into your skin pores.
Oh wait, okay. I want to circle back to the 3 like top things you can do to really build your immunity.
Okay,
we're talking hydration. Number 2,
I would say something called CGF, chlorella growth factor, which is concentrated chlorella. Now you've gotten rid of all the fiber, you're getting rid of the chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is our most important nutrient, but get rid of the chlorophyll, you get rid of all the stuff, and you distill down to the nucleic acids. That's RNA. And so that is one of the keys to longevity, is making sure that's the blueprints of our cell. So if you want to stay young, you want to take chlorella growth factor, because that's a huge amount of RNA sitting in there, these blueprints of our cell that
you're talking ribonucleic acid.
Yeah, right. Every time your cell goes to divide, you get an exact same copy of the cell. Well, if it doesn't have the instructions, you don't get the exact same copy. You get a diminished copy. And then that's why when you see people that are getting older, and you see them, you know, they go from 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60, and they get, you know, they're dropping down, you know, 50 to 60 is worse. Then 60 to 70 is bigger, 70 to 80, and then 90 to 100. I mean, they just drop off the map because they don't have the blueprints of their cells and nucleic acids to get these perfect copies of these cells that when it goes into mitosis and divides.
So CGF, chlorella growth factor, that has a ton of RNA, ribonucleic acid. That is going to help. That's going to help your cellular structure copy and duplicate at the same proficiency, we'll say, over and over again.
There's a yeast, by the way, and Fragilus gladiolus, I can't remember, it's in my book, and I sell it. It's called, the name of the product is RNA, and it's got like 80% RNA in there.
By the way, we'll put links to all of this in the bio, because it's important you can order it from you.
Yeah. And just one of the biggest concerns, of course, people want longevity. They want to live well. Well, that's what raw fruits and vegetables about. But also, I would recommend Mucuna, because that's got L-Dopa in it, and that basically gives you gets your brain to produce HGH, human growth hormone, and that's a key to longevity. And the last one is Tongkat Ali, which that produces helps the body actually use testosterone. And that testosterone is a key to longevity. And you look at anybody as they get old, they start losing all their hydrochloric acid. They can't digest their food. They have no digestive enzymes anymore. And, they have absolutely no growth hormone whatsoever in their body, and no testosterone. So Tongkat Ali is unique amongst all these things that can get your body to produce testosterone. And, women produce testosterone too, right? You're
I was
more
going to say, this is a rampant argument for men across the world.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the number one things people look for, testosterone. But to make estrogen, you need testosterone. You got to have that first. That's
you mean we have to work together? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Like to
Well, it's really weird. I guess men and women are different.
What?
We have testosterone, and then we have estrogen, and women have estrogen and testosterone, right? It's just the opposite. So at any rate, you need that testosterone to, and again, somebody told me once, this is very true. You show me your hormones, give me your hormone profile, I'll tell your age. So you show me your hormones, and I don't have to see you or anything. I say, you got the body of a 25-year-old, and you show me your hormones, and throughout your body, I'll say, okay, you're 85 years old. I mean, you could be 60, you could be 40, but that hormone profile, because hormones are the conductors of the symphony of the body. Yeah. So they're always telling us to do everything in the body. Everything that's going on are the hormones. And one of the reasons you don't eat dairy products is because that's the hormones of another species. And they have 46 hormones. Human milk has actually 23 hormones. So you're getting all these hormones from another species. And by the way, we are the only species on Earth that drink the milk of another species. And we're the only species on Earth. We're the only animal that on Earth that will drink milk past infancy.
So what you're saying is, if you're going to drink milk, make sure to drink your own milk.
Drink your own milk. Honestly, goat milk is much more like human milk. So if you're going to drink milk, drink goat cheese or goat milk. I'm a dairyaholic. Like for me not to eat dairy products, that's what I love. And so I used to eat pizzas all the time, and then it became less and less and less. And then pretty soon I saw the Domino's, and I just put my foot on the gas. It takes time. And one of the books I wrote is, let me see, here. The temple he was referring to was his body. So your body is the temple of God, and you got to honor that temple. So when you get sick, it's because you didn't put the right things in your body. That's as simple as that. So you got to honor and put it's water, it's raw fruits and vegetables. God grew an apple. We made a frying pan. You're not improving that. You're improving the taste. You're making. I'd rather have the apple pie, but what do I want? I want the nutrition, and so it's about variety. All these different foods in your diet, and you want them to be raw, and that's raw is the Lord.
I am so appreciative of this entire conversation.
Yeah.
I totally understand how massive industries would have problems with what you're saying and what you know intuitively and experientially to be true.
Yeah.
Because it is all about how you feel when it comes down to it. What you're saying, everything that you're saying is very simple. Yeah. It's not always easy when faced with those micro choices throughout the day, but it is always simple. Yeah. And for that, I am so appreciative.
Yeah. One last thing I'll say, okay, just to make it easy. Health is so simple to understand, very difficult to actually do it. Okay. But just remember this, HAD, H-A-D, hydrate your body, alkalize your body, detoxify your body. That's what you got to do. Those are the three keys right there, and to really thinking about. You got to keep that body hydrated, alkalize it constantly, raw fruits and vegetables, alkaline water, detoxify the body. Toxin doesn't belong in the body. It's the source of all disease. It's the source of fibromyalgia. It's the source of cancer. It's the source of everything. And so HAD, hydrate, alkalize, detoxify. Do it every day of your life, and stick on my program, my 7-component health protocol. We didn't even get into it, but I have a 7-component health protocol: exercise, positive mental attitude, minerals, probiotics, raw fruits and vegetables, spirulina and chlorella for the protein, and alkaline ionized water. That's the best thing you can possibly put in your body.
Dr. Bob, thank you.
Okay, thank you
so
having
much
me.
for
Thank you for having
being
me.
willing to come and sit in this luxurious ride and nerd out over water and nutrition.
Yeah. Well, what's more important? God and then health. You got to take care of yourself so you can take care of the rest of your family.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Truly.
Okay. All right. And by the way, one thing I didn't mention is one of my passions is literature. And so Hemingway, Stephen Crane, James Joyce, those are my favorites, you know. I know I've read everything and everything, but this is my book of short stories that I'm just about ready to publish another one. Sketches from a Young Man's Life, kind of a novel in 12 parts. But I mean, I read these stories 50 times before I put them in, you know, and then I read the book, and then I got another one I'm doing. So I'm really, that's my hobby, along with the guitar. So I would say that's my mistress. But you know, and so, but really, this is my mistress, and then these other books are my work. You know,
the only question is,
that's my wife. My marriage is my the literature is just, you know, that's my mistress. That's
does your wife know about your other wife being your work, and does your wife know about your mistress?
Yeah. Oh yeah. She does, and she knows I'm a total workaholic, and she's always. I mean, I'm always in my study working. You know, I show up every day for work. You know. You gotta take the day off. You know, I heard about this thing. It's called a vacation, right? You decide where you go somewhere, and then you do something you don't usually do. I mean, then you can't wait to come home. I call that a business trip. So I've traveled all over the world, and I lived in India for 6 months, and I've lived in Taiwan, and I lived in Israel. I lived in Paris for many months back in the 80s. I lived in New York. So I've lived all over the place. And, you know, Lansing's a great place, you know, for a lot of different reasons, great history here and everything. The Oldsmobile legacy is one of the greatest things we ever produced here. And the fact that the General Motors had to get rid of it, you know, it's like, big mistake, guys, big mistake. You shouldn't have ever done that. But
definitely
anyway.
the end of an era.
Yeah,